dementia is a terrible disease. It is actually listed as a terminal disease because it's basically the deterioration of someone's brain. It's very hard to live with someone that's going through it because there's a lot of delusions. There's the possibility of them hurting themselves or someone else. There's the possibility of them wandering away. And also it's just seeing someone that you love and care about very much kind of diminishing, kind of disappearing and turning into a stranger right in front of your eyes. But occasionally there's some kind of humorous stuff that happens, and it can be pretty funny. I mean, because if you don't find humor in the situation, I think you probably would go crazy yourself watching someone you love go through this. So occasionally my grandma's little mix-ups and confusions can be pretty cute. So they give me a good laugh, and I think that's probably the best way that I'm going to be able to deal with this situation at all, is finding the humor that's there. So I hope you guys get a good laugh too. So my grandma had a doctor's appointment today, and the doctor was asking her general questions, and one of the first things he asked her was, so how do you feel? And my grandma looks right at him and says, with my fingers. Isn't that cute? So my grandma claims that last night she couldn't sleep. It was about 1 or 2 in the morning, and she had a vision. She claims that Jesus Christ came down from heaven and sat on her couch and had a conversation with her. She says that he told her that she needs to be a fighter, and that she's still on this earth after almost 100 years because she has a purpose, and that she needs to fight in order to change the world. My grandmother believes that Jesus Christ is keeping her on this earth so that she can help achieve world peace. She asked me to find the phone number for the President of the United States because she has a message for him from God. Yeah. Okay, so sometimes when I'm taking care of my grandma, I have to take her somewhere, like the doctor's appointment, or to a store, or out to lunch, or something like that, and we have to get in the car. While we're in the car, we pretty much don't have any entertainment at all. She doesn't like my radio stations, and I have not figured out what kind of music she does like, so I can't figure out if there's a radio station that she'd like to listen to. So we just don't have any radio. Grandma just doesn't really say much in the car because she's just kind of watching the scenery and sleeping. So to keep myself occupied, I usually end up singing a song or whistling or something until we get where we're going. When my grandma wants to say something to me, she just interrupts me, just starts talking. I'll be quiet and I'll talk to her, and when she goes back to sleep or runs out of things to say, she just gets quiet again and I start singing. So the other day, Grandma looks at me and she says, you know, this is a very intelligent radio. I said, I guess. It's a CD player. It's just like any other radio. She says, no, it's very intelligent. It's the smartest I've ever seen. I said, what are you talking about, Grandma? And she said, well, when I start to talk to you, it turns itself off right away. And it doesn't turn back on again until we're done talking. And then it knows when we're done talking and automatically turns back on. And I was like, Grandma, that's not the radio. That's me. And she said, what? I said, that's me. I'm singing. She said, oh, you should be on the radio. So today the Pope happened to be in town. My grandma is Catholic, so she was pretty excited about seeing the Pope on TV, so I went through and I found all the channels that had him on there, and we pretty much watched the Pope on TV all day long. What I heard a lot of today was how old the Pope is. My grandma's sitting there watching him on TV, and she says, "Look how white his hair is." And I said, "Yeah, it's pretty white." And she says, "He's old. He's a very old man." I said, "Yeah, I guess so." And she says, "Yeah, he was an old man when I was a little girl." And I said, "Really?" And she says, "Yeah. I'm almost 100 now. So he must be about 200 years old." I said, That's really old, Grandma. Are you sure?" And she said, Yeah, he's got to be about 200 years old." My grandma just heard about Barack Obama. She saw his picture in the paper, and she wanted me to explain to her who he was. So I was explaining to her that he's trying to run for president, and that he and Hillary Clinton are competing for the Democratic candidacy for the presidency. And she got really, really upset. Her concern is that if a black man runs for president and wins, the white people will start a war. If a black man runs for president and loses, the black people will start a war. She says it's going to be the race war that ends the human race. My dad gets these magazines, these Science Digest, Science Weekly magazines that are just basically packed with articles. And the way they work is there's like 5 or 6 different articles in one page, and all of them have their own little headline, you know, and none of them have anything to do with the other ones. So you'll get one article that's headline in big bold letters, "GPS comes back from the dead," and then another one, "President of Sony company makes huge discovery," you know, it'll be like stuff like that. So my grandma's looking at this magazine, and she's looking at one of these pages, and she pretty much can only read the bold headlines. She can't read anything else fine print because her eyes are really kind of going. And so she's reading just the headlines on the one page as if it was one article. So all the headlines strung together into one paragraph, which obviously to, you know, the average mind would not make any sense at all. But to Grandma, it makes perfect sense. So she gets all excited and starts telling me that they brought the president back to life. She didn't even know he was dead, but they brought him back to life. They used satellites to bring the president back to life. She didn't know his initials were GPS. She thought he was something else, but she must have been confused because that's the president, and they used satellites when he died to bring him back to life. Yeah. So pretty much tried to explain to her that they were separate articles, what GPS is. I tried to explain that. Tried to explain the satellites had nothing to do with bringing GPS back to life, that was a metaphorical type thing. Tried to explain that the president was not necessarily the president of the United States, but the president of a company, and she didn't get it. But that's okay. It makes for a good story anyway, because to this day she'll swear to you that the president died and his name was GPS and they used satellites to bring him back to life.